Alright, wanted to do one quick video here and go through the flowing momentum, which is actually on my website. So again, it's stlparado.com. That's par like you're golfing. ETO. Extraterrestrial. Oh my goodness, what is this podcast even about? Welcome back to the podcast. Congratulations on beginning your success program. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Keep taking step after step. If you want that long-term happiness, you must make better decisions. It's the path of least resistance with a minimum effective dose to produce the results you want most. This podcast is based in STL. I've lived here all my life. STL is well known for the Gateway Arch, the nation's tallest man-made monument. Lewis and Clark knew as well as any great explorer, it boils down to cultivating the benefits of uncertainty. That's what I call flowing momentum. Dive deep into the principles of flowing momentum. Learn the 4 core values of your success program. It's in your ebook. It's on the website. Best in the world, why I am, how you can be too. Hop over to my website and click get my ebook. stlparado.com. That's PAR, like you're golfing, ET, like the movie, and oh my goodness, what is this podcast even about? Explore leadership psychology. Activate untapped potential. Parado optimality is the cornerstone of STL Parado. If you've never heard of it before, just search Google for 80-20 principle. 20% of your actions generate 80% of your results. That sounds simple, but it's also profound when you've shaped your life around it for 5 years, like me. Today's Parado application and the theme for this video is flowing momentum. It's actually not an ebook anymore. The plan was to have it as an ebook, but now it's actually just part of the website for entrepreneurs. Take your business to the next level with cutting-edge psychology principles. Make your marketing and sales funnels flow with Parado momentum. Step 3. Bring action together with freshly organized effort for success. And lastly, improve interpersonal relationship skills as you navigate upward and onward. For you too. Give your friends something to learn about your new entrepreneurial spirit. Begin to receive the wisdom that makes winners succeed around the clock. Thirdly, become a champion of life both in the workplace and also in your home life. And lastly, follow your heart with emotional intelligence through heart coherence. This is what flowing momentum is all about. And if you've seen me around St. Louis and I give you a little card or something to check out my YouTube channel, it's actually not just a YouTube channel. It's actually also a podcast. It's on Google Podcast. That's what I use. You can use whatever. I'm on iTunes. A lot of people, if they have iPhones, iTunes is built into it. Through iTunes, I'm on iTunes, but I've also got Google Podcast. If you're an Android user, Google Podcast is I'm on both of them at the same time because of this anchor. Best in the world, why I am, and how you can be too. Originally, I had planned on making this ebook, but now it's all spread out across this website. It's on different pages. It was all going to be in one ebook, but now it's going to be all on the page. Reading on my site seems quicker and easier than getting an ebook to read. The first thing you need to understand here on the homepage is flowing momentum. I touch on this a lot throughout most of the videos on YouTube. It's a 3-step process that sort of cycles and never ends completely. STL Parado is based on Parado efficiency, aka the 80-20 rule. Flowing momentum is also based on Parado optimality in step 3. Flow is the science of psychology. That's why the first thing on my card says psychology. I call it leadership psychology, but it's so much more than just leadership psychology. It's psychology of many, many other things as well. One of those science of psychologies is called flow, and that's what flowing momentum is based on, science of flow. Flow is a science of psychology, and just because you're unaware doesn't mean it isn't there. My poor parents. I was just explaining this a few nights ago. Just because you're unaware doesn't mean it isn't there. I really do understand psychology quite well, and you're going to benefit just from listening to this podcast, even if you don't think you will, but you will. Flow is a science of psychology. It has to do with losing track of time. And actually, flow state is something that includes the irregular passage of time. When you're in the flow, hours can seem like minutes, and minutes can feel like hours. The goal is usually to be in flow state as often and as much as possible. That's why they sometimes call it optimal experience. Very unlucky are you if your work and your career path does not create flow for you. If you're not getting in the flow with work every day, then woe to you. That's not going to be as good of a life as it could be. So that's why I'm a huge proponent for getting your work-life spectrum just like a fuel gauge or a tachometer. It's a spectrum between work and life. You don't have to delineate so much. But certainly if you enjoy what you do, or you at least find some way to enjoy what you do, you can sort of get into a greater state of flow. Now, flowing momentum is not easy at first. That's what I want to explain. It's not easy to stay in flowing momentum. In my opinion, it's my opinion, okay? It's my opinion that when you combine the principles of flow with the principles of Pareto efficiency, which again is the 80-20, go ahead and Google it, you get the biggest bang for your buck. That's why I call it flowing momentum. That's what I call it. This is the same cutting edge science we apply in my coaching program. That starts with ongoing adaptation. Step 1, 3-step process. First part is ongoing adaptation. Step 1, the theory of evolution suggests that the most able to adapt are more likely to survive. In business and in life, you don't just want to survive. You want to thrive. And in order to thrive, you have to be great at managing uncertainty. There is always going to be a certain amount of uncertainty with life. You have to know how to deal with that. If you don't know how to deal with that, life is just going to suck. Flowing momentum is the way you deal with that uncertainty. That's the first point here. The solution I think helps the most is flowing momentum. When you're always in the flow, you're providing a great balance of emotion and logic. IQ is very important, but what's even more important is EQ, emotional quotient. Emotional intelligence means living with your heart energies and your brain energies in full force, in unison, in rapport. If your brain is moving in one direction and your heart energies are moving in another direction, you'll never have true emotional intelligence. In many ways, your brain itself has to be in alignment, because as you know, there's two hemispheres of the brain. One of those is more logical, and one of those is more sensing, feeling, emotional. One of them is more linear, and one of them is more decentralized in its problem-solving capability. And you want to have the capability of both hemispheres simultaneously. Most people are lucky if they can get one hemisphere to work really, really good. You don't just want one hemisphere working great. You want them both working great, okay? That's part it's required for flowing momentum. True emotional intelligence would be impossible without flow. It's psychology. And many people suggest that EQ is more important in the big picture than IQ. How you intelligently align chaos and uncertainty, because it's kind of the same thing. The chaos of life, the uncertainty of life. How you intelligently align chaos and uncertainty says a lot about you. The best in the world don't resist change. If you're going to resist change, then you're kind of along with all of the lemmings jumping off of the cliff. Why would you want to jump off the cliff? Don't jump off the cliff. For you not to die, don't jump off the cliff. Don't do it. Learn how to manage chaos and uncertainty. Learn how to lean into the change so that it's working for you, not against you. How you intelligently align chaos and uncertainty says a lot about you. The best in the world do not resist change. They embrace it and use it towards strategic advantage. They actually lean into the flow of change. Next up, you get to sequencing rhythm. Step 2. Again, this is a 3-step process. It's called flowing momentum. It's a 3-step process. We're getting into step 2 now. It's called sequencing rhythm. Once you get there, your ability to stay in flow is going to depend on sequencing. If you've done the right thing but in the wrong order, you haven't actually done the right things. If you've done the right things but in the wrong order, you haven't actually done the right things. And this brings us up to sequencing rhythm, step 2, of flowing momentum. You have to get things in the right order, folks. You absolutely have to get things in the right order. One of my personal heroes is Abraham Lincoln, and he very well could understand a principle that Tim Ferriss uses called DS3. And one of his S's is sequencing, and how to be world class, and how to be best in the world. Really, that's what this is all about. How can you be best in the world? You can't do it without sequencing. You just can't. You can't do it without sequencing. You need to have sequencing rhythm. Okay, everything moves in cycles. And actually on my phone, I've got this widget on the back. A side note, on the back of my phone, I've got this widget that shows me the moon cycles, and I feel a lot more in tune with nature because of that. I've got a widget calendar that shows me the next few days of weather, so I know if rain is coming up, and so I'm sort of tuned in to the natural cycles of nature. And cycles are the way the world works. You've got 4 seasons in life. You know, we're getting out of summer, we're getting into fall. The leaves are going to start falling. It's autumn. It's around the corner. Here it is, getting ready to start October. Things are going so great. Sequencing rhythm, step 2. Once you get there, because you got to get in flow first. But just because you get there doesn't mean you're going to stay there. But your ability to stay there in flow state, is going to depend on sequencing. If you not get your sequencing rhythm right, then you won't stay in flow. Because step 1 is sort of get in flow by learning what that is. And then step 2 is staying in flow, and that requires sequencing rhythm. If you've done the right thing but in the wrong order, you haven't actually done the right thing. That's just a basic truism of life. If you've done the right thing, but in the wrong order, you haven't actually done the right things. To get what you want, you have to deserve what you want by taking the appropriate actions. That says the same thing, but in a different way. That pretty much says the same thing. So the first one is, if you've done the right thing, but in the wrong order, you haven't actually done the right things. And likewise, to get what you want, you have to deserve what you want by taking the appropriate actions. Your actions will determine your results, nothing else. But when it comes to flow, I think the goal is to experience flow state through mental activity alone, and you truly can all day long. Very few people are experiencing flow state all day long through mental activity alone. A lot of them require physical activity to experience flow state. But you can achieve flow state with mental activity alone. It's not easy. You have to take the appropriate actions, but what I'm saying here is sometimes taking an action is nothing more nor less than choosing your thoughts. There is a certain magic associated with choosing your thoughts. There certainly is. In many ways, I'm a white magician. You can call me magic. Call it white magic if you please. Grab a handkerchief when you sneeze. This is COVID-19. You want to remain in flow state all day long. Do your best to keep trying no matter what. And if you really want to dive deep, go ahead and read the book yourself. It's on the book list. It's called Flow. You can literally go into Google and type flow. It's a science. It's a psychology. It's a psychology of human optimal experience. It's by Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, on top of book list for STL Parada for a good reason. For a good reason. Because all actions are based on thoughts. You have to reorganize your thinking. All actions are based on thoughts. To get what you want, you have to deserve what you want by taking the appropriate actions. Because all actions are based on thoughts, you have to reorganize your thinking. Getting things in order isn't enough. Talk about sequencing, you need to get them in sequence. Otherwise, you're not going to stay in flow. But you're not going to stay in flow even if you've got sequencing, but you haven't got this. To keep them in order, you need to plan for the entire cycle. That's why I say cycles and rhythm and sequencing all go together. Getting things in order isn't enough. To keep them in order, you need to plan for the entire cycle. To keep things in order, you need to plan for the entire cycle. Don't just plan for your goal in a week. Oh, my goal is not to buy ice cream so that I won't be so fat. I'm just going to stop buying ice cream from the stores. That's a very small goal. Have some ambition. Take care of core value number one. You need desire in order to be a co-creator. I am Stonewheel, and I am a co-creator. You want to be a co-creator too. You need desire in order to be a co-creator, and you need ambition, because that's the same thing. You need ambition. You need a dream big. Don't just skip the ice cream. Don't just skip the orange sherbet. Don't just skip it. Don't just skip the orange sherbet. Don't just skip the ice cream. Dream bigger than that. Plan out the next 10 years. Plan out the next 25 years of your life. Get a notebook. Buy a freaking notebook. Costs you $5. Okay? Buy a notebook. Buy a pencil. And plan out the next 25 years of your life. I'm not joking. Just do it. Fucking Nike. Okay? Just do it. Lastly, parallel momentum, step 3. Again, flowing momentum is 3-step process. We just talked about step number 2. Now we're going to step number 3. It's parallel momentum. After you've applied the upcoming core values, stick with the program. It takes time to feel the effects of true momentum. Now, momentum is basically like an object in motion wants to stay in motion. An object at rest wants to stay at rest, but an object in motion wants to stay in motion. That's just a basic truism of physics and the natural world of life. After you've applied the upcoming core values, stick with the program. This is about momentum. This is about staying in the flow all day long. You want to stay in the flow all day long, and I call it flowing momentum. Because you never really lose progress, and you're always making more progress. And because of the eighth wonder of the world, you've got compound interest. Ben Franklin said that the greatest dividends will always pay off as an investment into your own brain. An investment into yourself, into your own brain, pays the best dividends, always. No matter how much money you could make in the world, always, you could be richer than Bill Gates himself. Always, you're going to get the best dividends by investing into your brain. And you're not able to do that unless you have momentum. You need momentum. You need all of your actions from yesterday and the last year and the last 5 years to all build on each other, sort of like a snowball rolling down a big hill. After you've applied the upcoming core values, stick with the program. It takes time to feel the effects of true momentum. It's less important how quickly you get there, and more important that you keep moving. Keep taking actions to build your new habit of flowing momentum. So real quick, there's this 5-step progress. One of them is called dreams. So you have to have dreams that are in alignment with your values. So it's important to understand that my value system, I've got 4 values in my value system. Technically, one of them is hidden value that you might learn later on. But I've got 4 values in the system. You can have your own values too. You need to have your own values too. And your own values will lead you to dreams. And your own dreams are based on ambition. That's core value 1. That's core value 1. You have values, and then you have dreams. Dreams are based on ambition. That's why I say dream big in ambition. Ambition is dreaming big. So keep doing that. After you dream, those dreams need to be slowly molded like a clay pot on a spinning wheel. You're molding this clay pot or a bowl or a cup or something, and you're molding it, and it's very slowly and gently hardening from a dream to a goal. From a dream to a goal. So you've got your value, you've got your dream, now you've got your goal. Once you've got your goal, you've got to turn your goal into your plan. And how else would you turn your goal into your plan but letting the clay continue to harden? Well, once you've got plans, now we get to core value 2. Discipline. Discipline's what core value 2 is. You can see it on stlparado.com. On my website, stlparado.com, it's got my core values, and it's got flowing momentum, which I'm reading through right here. Focusing your attention combines, so you need to take actions, is basically what I'm saying. Your values, you have your own values, and I know that. The core values are just the core values to your success program here at STL Parado. So it's important to understand that you still have your own values, but you've got these values too. And as long as you're following the program, you're gonna see results, because results always come after actions. And if you've got issues with your results, you just trace it back. It's a daisy chain. It's one after the next. They're like dominoes. This 5-step method is like dominoes, or 6-step method. It's like dominoes. If there's something wrong with the results and you don't like the results in your life, it's too simple. Trace back to your actions. Have a little bit of doggone self-awareness and analyze yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to come no, trust yourself above all else. Once you've actually got your actions in alignment, if anything's wrong with those actions, trace it back another step. If something with your actions is out of alignment, then it means something with your plans is out of alignment. You need to build new plans. Napoleon Hill says the greatest persistence is persistence in creating new plans to take the place of those that fail. Inevitably, the first casualty of war is always the plan. With my personal hero, Honest Abe, Abraham Lincoln, land of Lincoln in Illinois, on the penny, on the 1 cent. Good old Honest Abe. He's in there, Think and Grow Rich, actually. He's also in Dale Carnegie's book, How to Influence and Influence People. So you can go forwards or backwards in the system. They're sort of like a chain link fence next to each other. Focusing your attention combines capacity for multitasking by having many trains of thought all flow in the same direction. So I used to work at a steakhouse. I used to work at a bar and grill and be a server and bartender. So I was actually bartender for a short period of time too. Focusing your attention combines capacity for multitasking. Now, when you're in the service industry, not necessarily like a hotel chain or anything, but if you're in the service industry in terms of like being a server or waiter, waitress or whatever, then you've got to be able to multitask because you got so many tables or so many patrons or so many people that are there that you're serving because you're in the service industry. And I sort of had this setback in life because of having worked in the service industry. Eventually I got it worked out of my system. And so I'm still sort of like I see a lot of people that are just failing through life because they're bartenders or servers. Because they're multitasking. Multitasking is absolute death for your hopes and dreams. If you've got ambition, core value 1, and you've got discipline, core value 2, the point is you really can't have good discipline if you're multitasking all the time. You just can't. The only way to overcome that superior setback is by focusing your attention. Because focusing your attention combines the capacity for multitasking. Just because you have a capacity for multitasking doesn't mean it's working in the best way possible. And the only way you can get it working for you by having many trains of thought all flow in the same direction. Because you sort of have like these trains of thought. Think of like little tunnels, trains of thought, right? And if you've got one train of thought about, what you're going to have for dinner tonight, one train of thought about, the cute guy at the gym that you're working out or your trainer or whatever. And if you've got all these trains of thoughts, but they're all about random different things, let's say that you want to open a lemonade stand, okay? And one of your trains of thought is that you've got to get the wood to build the stand, you've got to get the lemons to squeeze the lemons, you've got to get the squeezer to squeeze the lemons, you've got to get the glass jar to hold all the lemon juice. You've got all these trains of thought, but if they're working together, the only way to get them multitasking together is by choosing to flow all of those trains of thought together. And then you become sort of like an unstoppable force. But that's a little nurturing activity for next week. Focusing your attention, I just said that part. Without it, you just can't reach parental momentum. You don't just want to survive, you want to thrive. And once again, if you're lucky enough to be offered a program, my coaching program is exclusive. There's a lot of people I know, I just look at them, I take one look at them, I know you're never going to make it in the program. You're absolutely not disciplined enough. I would never ever let you into the program. Staying in flow all day long can only be achieved if you reach flow state through mental activity alone. That's what I was saying earlier. Flow might be easier for you to experiment with physically first, and this can easily be done through exercise. This can easily be done through exercise if you're running or doing some sort of like yoga, or I actually did this Tai Chi for a while. It was great. And you can really get in the flow through mental activity. As a matter of fact, in high school, I was in the marching band. I was in the leadership corps. So I've got leadership experience for the last 6 or 7 years, 6.5. It's time flies, 6 3/4, 7 years almost. And staying in flow all day long can only be achieved if you reach flow state through mental activity alone. Flow might be easier for you to experiment with physically first. And as soon as you can, start strengthening your concentration in order for you to reach greater and more powerful flow. So that sums up step 3. Once again, flowing momentum is a 3-step process. I just read through all of the material that's on the homepage. If you want to read it yourself, it's on the homepage. Otherwise, you're watching this quick video. Next up in the